Welcome to Move the Chains with Jonathan Rivers on Fox 54, sponsored by Realtree. Here's your host, Jonathan Rivers.
Let there be football. Welcome to Move the Chains. I'm your host, Jonathan Bam Rivers. The New York Jets have done something before the season ended. And it's something that was predicted before the season started. And a lot of people think that their issues are simply on the offensive side of the football. Well, I'm going to tell you in first down why I simply think that's not true. And we're going to take you back in time so we can tell you what was foretold regarding the New York Jets in the 2024 season. And there are a couple of surprises in the NFL that a lot of people are taking a look at today. And I'm going to tell you that I wasn't surprised by either of them, and I said so as much right here. And in my nonsense narrative, there are a lot of people that think college football shouldn't have upsets because the talent is so much swayed in one conference's or a couple of teams' direction. And I'm going to tell you why it's simply not true. And lastly, the Auburn Tigers. I've got two words for everybody that supports Auburn, whether you're a fan, whether you're a booster, whether you're a player or coach, what have you, be patient. All that and more right here on Move the Chains, but you know how we do it. Let's kick it off at first down. So the New York Jets are missing some things. And if you ask anybody, they can say it's the offensive line, they can say their offense is stagnant, they can say that they're predictable, they can say that they're not doing this on the offensive side of the football, their defense is great, but they're not forcing enough turnovers, whatever you want to say about the Jets. But it's always, and it has always been, about foundation for the New York Jets and a lack thereof. Now, what we're going to do now is I want to take you back to, I think, July, summer, when we were really kind of in the infancy stage of this show and we're still in the infancy stage. I did a show on bold predictions. And I want to show you what my first bold prediction was coming into the 2024 season. Run it, Ernest. Telling you that these are my specific bold predictions. And the first bold prediction is Robert Saleh, head coach of the New York Jets, will be fired before the season ends. So again, in a lot of people's minds, you may say, well, I don't think this is a bold prediction because I think Robert Saleh won't be there at the end of the season anyway. No, I'm telling you, I think he'll be cut before the season ends. And this is why. I think the New York Jets have an overinflated sense of who they are and what they can be. Because the Jets have a top-notch defense. I'm not going to call them a championship caliber defense, but they have a top-notch defense, and a lot of that is due to Robert Saleh, who, remember, was one of the phenomenal defensive coordinators for the 49ers before he took the head coaching job. But I don't think I've been able to see Robert Saleh settle in. And the one thing that the Jets have needed throughout the duration of the history of this program, let's say for the past 20 years, has been stability. I haven't seen it. I've also seen this team draft guys at positions, especially on the defensive side and even on the offensive side of football, where they've been phenomenal, but yet they can't get the quarterback position right. And because of that, who takes the blame? It's going to be the head coach. Because even though you have a sure first ballot Hall of Famer in the building now, he only played 4 plays last year before he got hurt. Now we don't know what the situation is with him moving forward in terms of minicamp and how he's going to be mentally moving into the season, how well he gels with his teammates. That all falls on the head coach. Because if Robert Saleh can't get it together, if the Jets start off slow, please believe, I don't think he'll finish the season. July 2024, your boy said Robert Saleh would be fired prior to the season ending. And I'm going to reiterate this. I'm not saying that's what I wanted to happen. I'm telling you that's what I thought would happen. And this is why I thought it would happen. Because what's the one thing that's changed with the New York Jets? I know you're sitting out there, you're thinking about scheming. You're thinking about offensive, defensive coordinators. You're thinking about the head coach. And I'm talking about over the last 20 years. You're talking about what it is that they're doing in terms of Breece Hall and Braylon Allen running the football, or drafting guys like Garrett Wilson and bringing in guys on the defensive side of the football. You've got all pros all along that defense. That's not it, guys and ladies. The one thing that's changed with the New York Jets were their expectations when they brought in Aaron Rodgers. Because for some reason, for some unforsaken and crazy reason, they thought Aaron Rodgers would solve all of their problems. And see, this is what's going to happen. The Jets have fired Robert Saleh, and the Jets are going to win a couple of games. They may even beat Buffalo Monday night. I wouldn't pick the Jets to beat Buffalo, but let's say they win that game. Everybody's going to say that this was justified. There are a lot of people now that think this move was justified because Robert Saleh wasn't the guy. Well, let me ask you a question, Woody Johnson. owner of the New York Jets, if you didn't think Robert Saleh was the guy coming into the season, why did he come into the season as a head coach? If you fire him after 5 games at 2-3, you didn't believe in him in the first place, so why bring him in? So see, this is what I don't understand. There are things that are missing and they're blocks. You see these bricks behind me on the set of this show, they signify a foundation. And that's something that the New York Jets don't have. So you can go and get yourself a future Hall of Fame quarterback, but if there's no foundation, it doesn't matter. And I'm not saying that Aaron Rodgers should be absolved of anything, because I think Aaron Rodgers was the reason that people have the misconception they have about Mike McCarthy, because he said McCarthy was the reason they didn't win more Super Bowls. So now he has a bad rap. Mike McCarthy does. No matter how many 12-win seasons he has or no matter how many playoff wins he has, he's got a Super Bowl, but people give that to Aaron Rodgers. So I'm looking at the New York Jets, and I'm asking you what will change. Do you know that in the last 20 years, the Jets' total win-loss record, are you ready? It's 134 and 190. 41% of the time they win football games. That's over a multitude of coaches. That's over a multitude of quarterbacks. But it's with Woody Johnson as the owner. So when you don't have a foundation, I don't care what talent you try to build brick by brick. If the foundation underneath the surface, if the roots are not strong, nothing else matters. And I think that's what you're seeing with the New York Jets. And because you have a 40-year-old quarterback, after this season, he may not be there even if he gives you one more season, then what's the answer? Because then you're back in the same position that you were in before you brought in Aaron Rodgers, and even with Aaron Rodgers, in my estimation. And that's not just quarterback purgatory, but that's organizational purgatory. All right, when we come back from the break, a couple of surprises early on in the NFL season. But I'm going to tell you why they weren't surprises to me. Back when we move the chains right after this. And welcome back into the show. And before we get to second down and my early NFL surprises in 2024, as always, I want to take this opportunity to give all glory and honor to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for hosting Move the Chains. Secondly, I want to thank you, the fans. It doesn't matter if I go to my son's football games, if I go to Walmart, if we're in the grocery store, if I'm at Best Buy somewhere, somebody's coming up to me and telling me that they've seen the show and that they enjoy the show and that they're supporting the show. So that really means a lot, because the show can't grow without your support. So I'm truly blessed by that. I want to thank you. And last but not least, to my production crew, you guys and gals are awesome. I mean, they get it done. The best production crew in the business. And this show is going to take new heights, ladies and gentlemen, and they're a big reason why. So shout out to everybody in the back who makes sure this show runs smoothly every single week. All right, having said all that, you know what time it is. It's time for second down. So if I tell you that there's a surprise to me or early surprises in the NFL, it's all relative to expectations, correct? So these are early surprises that a lot of people had when it comes to these teams that I'm about to talk about, because I wasn't necessarily surprised by these teams. Now, I will say this. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the Washington Commanders. And I said from day one, Jaden Daniels was the best quarterback in this draft. I think Caleb Williams is having a pretty good rookie season. He's turned the ball over a little bit, but I said Jaden Daniels, I watched them in college. I said it while they were in college, while they were going through the draft process, while everybody was saying Caleb Williams is a presumptive number one and he's the odds-on favorite to be the number one pick, which is fine. I just said I thought Jaden Daniels was a better quarterback. I was watching him when he was at Arizona State, when he got recruited by Herm Edwards, when Herm Edwards was the head coach there. And then, of course, when he went to LSU in the SEC, I just saw things just from a leadership standpoint, being able to throw the football and being able to run the football. He's just that good. But this is what I'll say. Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders are 4-1. I'm surprised that their record is 4-1 right now, because I didn't think they'd be a terrible team. I just thought they would struggle. So when it happens, because it will happen for the Washington Commanders, because I think as a rookie quarterback, the curve still continues to be a little bit sharp. He's very smart. He's very dynamic. But what I'm saying is, please don't jump off the Jaden Daniels bandwagon if the Commanders don't continue to flourish and don't continue to thrive like they are. Because they're firmly in place to not only make the playoffs, but to win the NFC East. But I don't want people jumping off the Jaden Daniels bandwagon if he struggles, because he will struggle. Remember, right now, I think he's 12th in passing yards in the NFL, which is good, especially for a rookie. He has 4 touchdown passes. That's not extraordinary. He has 2 interceptions, which is extraordinary. He's got another 4 touchdowns on the ground. He is a field general. He is phenomenal, but don't jump off the bandwagon when he struggles, because that's what rookies do. Understand that Washington now has a future, and they have a a head coach who's not a rookie head coach because he's been a head coach before, but his first season with the Commanders and a first-year quarterback who may make the playoffs. That almost never happens, except if you're Houston with DeMeco Ryans and C.J. Stroud, and both of these quarterbacks were number 2 overall. Now, I want to talk about the Minnesota Vikings. I told you before the season started, somebody asked me on social media, hey, is there a team that you feel like is underrated who people aren't talking about before the season starts? And I said the Minnesota Vikings. And I said because everybody thinks Sam Darnold's trash because he was trash with the Jets and he was trash with the Panthers. Please tell me lately who hasn't been trash with the Jets at quarterback, who hasn't been trash with the Panthers at quarterback? Can you tell me anybody? And when Brian Flores came in and took over their defense, this team went from being dead last 2 years ago to being middle of the pack last year. And now they're about 14th or 15th now, but they play complementary football. Do you know what Sam Darnold has? He has a running game. Even when Aaron Jones being injured, they still have a viable run game. And when Aaron Jones comes back, they'll be that much better. And they've got receivers and tight ends galore. And Sam Darnold has been making smart decisions. And Kevin O'Connell has been putting him in position to be successful. A lot of people aren't buying the Vikings. And it may be because they're looking at what the Vikings did 2 years ago when they were that good with a bad defense and they won all those games by 1 score. And then they got bounced in the first round of the playoffs against the Giants. This isn't that team. This team is better because, like I said a few seconds ago, they play complementary football. Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores are 2 head coaches on the same team. O'Connell handles the offense and makes sure the team does what they do, and Brian Flores handles the defense, and they are playing at a high level. They are turning people over. They are blitzing quarterbacks. They are disguising coverages to where quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers, who's been in the league forever, who's seen everything known to man when it comes to coverage, are still having trouble with. This is why this team is viable. And this is why this team, even in the NFC North with the Packers and in the NFC North with the Lions, can win this division. It's going to be a great race to the end, but don't be surprised if the Vikings are vying for not only NFC North supremacy, but NFC supremacy by the time the season's in. You thought losing Kirk Cousins would be the end of this team, and I'm simply telling you they just got younger and more athletic at quarterback with the same weapons that they had previously. All right, when we come back from the break, college football shouldn't have upsets. You're dead wrong, and I'll tell you why on the Nonsense Narrative. We'll be back and we'll move the chains right after this. Hey, welcome back in to Move the Chains. Been a phenomenal show as always, and this part of the show is always my favorite show, and you know what that means. It's time for my Nonsense Narrative. May I get my lower third, please? Thank you. There are so many people that watch college football and they get enamored with the talent that teams have. They get enamored with the names on the jerseys and the logos on helmets and the players that they have. And they think this. They think underdogs should never win. Or better yet, they think upsets should never happen in college football. And I'll just tell you that's not true. And I'll say it's for a multitude of reasons. One, when was the last time you watched a college football season where upsets didn't transpire? Where a multitude of upsets didn't transpire, even in the same weekend. It happens every year. Now, I can't pinpoint the year it's going to happen, but it happens every single year. And now, in the landscape of college football, when you're talking about transfers, or you're talking about NIL money that's going left, right, east, west, north, south, or what have you, between these colleges and these players, it's an even more viable thing now. It's going to happen even more. But what I want you to understand is that just because a team is unranked doesn't mean the team is not good. And this is not me making excuses for the teams that went on the road last week and lost. Even today, there will be teams that have to go on the road. Penn State has to go on the road to USC. Kansas State has to go on the road to Colorado. I'm not shocked if one or both of those teams lose. It's just the nature of the business because unranked doesn't simply mean you're not good. It simply means you're currently unranked because there are top 25 teams. What if you rank 30th in the nation? Does that mean you can't beat the number 6 team? Absolutely not. And when I look at situations such as these, I'm not going to put USC and Michigan on blast, although I told you USC would be in the middle of the road Big Ten team anyway because of the transition and what they lack defensively, even though they've been better. Tennessee went on the road and lost to Arkansas. Alabama went on the road and lost to Vandy. And that's where I want to stay right here. And I know a lot of people think I'm going to kill Alabama for being the number 1 team in the nation and saying that they overlooked Vandy because of the win that they had against Georgia and they weren't prepared. I think some of that can be true. But I simply telling you that what if they hadn't played Georgia? They still could have lost to Vanderbilt. Because in this video you'll see, Alabama did what they didn't do against Georgia. They didn't take care of the football. Remember, they were +3 in the turnover margin against Georgia. They were -2 against Vanderbilt. Alabama couldn't get Vanderbilt off the field on third down. Vanderbilt converted 67% of their third downs against Alabama. 67%. And a team that is run heavy, who runs a modification of the triple option. So let me ask you this. How can you do that if you're Alabama? How can you give up that many third downs? Well, it's because Vanderbilt was very good on first down in that game. Do you know Vanderbilt rushed the ball 51 times against Alabama? 51 times. And then that Diego Pavia, the quarterback from Vanderbilt, do you know he was the same quarterback in New Mexico State that went into Jordan-Hare and beat Auburn a year ago? Remember I talked about the transfer portal? So what I'm telling you is upsets happen because teams have to go on the road. Teams have to be at their best every single weekend. And when you're a top-tier team, you're going to get undoubtedly everybody's best. And I've said it before, you look at teams like Vanderbilt and Arkansas, look at their schedule and look at how they've played against teams that are ranked this year. Look at how Vanderbilt beat Virginia Tech. Look at how Vanderbilt took Missouri down to the last field goal that lost to Missouri. Look at Arkansas, how they played a ranked Oklahoma State team very close and lost in less than a touchdown. Look at how Arkansas lost when they played Texas A&M, whom we see now under Mike Elko in his first year may be formidable in the SEC. So everything happens not just within a vacuum. Vanderbilt was celebrating last weekend because they did the unthinkable. They were able to beat Alabama, and nobody thought it could happen, but it will happen more and more because that's what college football is. All right, when we come back, it'll be my final segment of the show, and that's the final drive. Back when we'll move the chains right after this. And welcome back, and it's the last segment of the show, so you know what that means. It's time for the final drive. 2 words for every Auburn supporter, every Auburn graduate, every Auburn booster, every Auburn fan, even every Auburn player and coach. Be patient. That's all I can tell you, because Auburn's not a very good football program right now. This is not me berating the Auburn football program. This is me being realistic about their program. Understand that they have talent that they're bringing into the building, but like I said about the Jets, there has to be a foundation that is built. And the worst thing you can do in my estimation, is bring in a coach and after his second year, put him on the sideline, fire him, and then have to pay him a buyout like you're doing multiple other coaches right now. All right, don't forget, you can not only catch Move the Change right here on the Sports Leader WXTX Fox 54, but you can also catch us on YouTube. Make sure you go to @move_the_change. It's a YouTube channel. It's the address. Subscribe, like, comment. Make sure you post what you love about the show and where we can grow because we're here for all of it. All right, as always, another banger for the best production crew in the business. I'm your boy, Jonathan Bam Rivers. And as always, until next time here on Move the Chains, God bless.